Hello everyone, this is my first actual video on this YouTube channel, and today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the unexplained phenomenon or mystery, depending on what way you want to look at it, of the sleep watcher of Cape Elizabeth. I'm going to keep it short while at the same time focusing on the important details. I also wanted to say that I did have an inspiration for this video. A YouTuber by the name of Zerk uploaded around an 8-minute video on this, kind of going over the details, and it really intrigued me into looking more regarding this unexplained mystery. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you. On a cold fall day, you get home. After work, you're tired. You eat dinner, you go to bed, kiss your wife goodnight, and everything goes smoothly. However, late into the night, you wake up. Who knows if it's because you had a nightmare or if you just jerked awake. All you really know for certain is that when you open your eyes, there's a man standing at the foot of your bed, looking at you. You can't denote any of his features. All you see is a dark silhouette of a man staring directly at you. You feel your heart start to race, and all you can see is this man. All you can feel is fear. You don't know what to do and you don't know how to react. You don't know if this man is in your room to kill you. You suddenly turn, you try and reach for the lamp, but before you could turn around to lay your eyes onto who or what this man is, he is gone, vanished without a trace. You heard nothing, saw nothing, and overall your mind is just baffled as to how this man standing right at the foot of your bed could just vanish without a trace within a split second. Before we can get into any of the actual theories regarding this, let's learn a little bit more about the case itself. This case took place in around August of 2005, as well as December of 2005 and February of 2006. Now, if you notice how I didn't give you a set time frame, but rather three distinct months, this is due to the fact that this sleep watcher decided to very sporadically space out when he would break into people's homes. It's almost like he was coming and going into town, and whenever he was in town, he just decided to break into people's houses. What would he do inside of the actual houses themselves? Well, in every single recorded incident of him breaking and entering, he never once harmed anyone. He never once damaged any property. He never stole anything. He never did anything that was actually malignant in nature. He would just break in and simply watch people sleep. After the first few recordings of him breaking and entering started to occur, the local police began to increase their watch of the neighborhoods and patrol more often. By doing this, it was noted that the incidents slowed down, however. But as I explained before, he would attack in August for seemingly a time, and then he'd take a little break. And then in December, he'd strike again. And for the month, he'd, pretty continuously break into people's homes and then just watch them sleep. Later on in February of 2006, he would do the same again, but then after February, everything ceased. It is noted that the police, as they, increased their watch of the area, they also obviously had an ongoing investigation into the problem. From this, they procured a sketch that I'll show on the screen right now. And from this, about 10 different individual callers phoned in and said that they knew who this man was with certainty. In fact, two of them actually named the same person. However, the police investigated all of this. They contacted these people. They did interviews. They did everything in their power, yet nothing could be tied together. There was no evidence, simply nothing. This man just existed to break into people's houses and then simply vanish without a trace, as I said. There are two main theories for the Cape Town intruder. The first one is a little bit more concrete and has actual evidence. The second one is more ambiguous and more theoretical in nature. To start, I'll go over the first one. The first theory has to do with a 25-year-old man that goes by the name of Nathaniel Lovely, or well, he was 25 years old at the time in which he was arrested. Well, what was he arrested for? Well, in 2015, within the grounds of Cape Elizabeth, Maine, Nathaniel Lovely decided to break into and basically just sit inside of the school. He didn't damage anything. He didn't abduct any kids or nothing like that. He just broke in and chilled out. It was also revealed that he broke into the local church as well. Pretty similar to how, you know, this sleep intruder would just break into homes. Nathaniel Lovely would enter these buildings and not damage anything. He wouldn't take anything. He wouldn't hurt anyone. He would just sit there and do who knows what. Now, as you can see by the mugshot shown on the screen, Nathaniel Lovely does share a kind of similarity with the Cape Town sleep intruder. However, obviously they look different. But what you do have to take note of is that this occurred 10 years later. So for me, my personal opinion, and what seems to be the opinion of other people as well, is that this man simply aged 10 years and got fat, and that Nathaniel Lovely is indeed the Cape Town intruder who 10 years prior to his arrest was breaking into people's houses or homes, whatever's correct grammar, and watching them sleep. The main argument against this theory is the fact that when Nathaniel was arrested, he was 25, and his arrest was about 10 years after the Cape Town intrusions. So that would have made him about 15 years old at the time. There are two problems with this. The first being the fact that he was 15. Okay, how many 15-year-olds do you know are going to go out and break into people's houses and watch them sleep without getting caught, let alone? The second problem is when you look at the police sketch of the intruder, the guy doesn't look 15 years old. So take with that what you will. When it comes to the sketch portion, I personally believe you see a dude in your room at night at 2 a.m. in the morning and you're freaking out. And as explained by the people who reported it, they couldn't make out his facial details that well. The police sketch is not going to be 100% accurate. But that's just my thoughts. The second theory has a more psychological aspect to it. So I want you to picture this. I don't know if you have had sleep paralysis before, but I have personally dealt with sleep paralysis. The couple of times I've had sleep paralysis, your mind exists in a state between awake and asleep, and that can cause you to imagine things that aren't there. So I want you to picture this in the grand scope of things. It is described on two different reports, albeit these reports they're from Reddit, okay? So they're not 100% certain, but two people, were commenting on this event, and both of them lived in Cape Elizabeth during this time. Both of them said that due to Cape Elizabeth's extremely low crime rate, the people living there were very uncharacteristically, what's the word for it? Paranoid about crime. In fact, it is described that Cape Elizabeth had, I guess you could call it an area, a little pawn area where you could go and buy trinkets that people wanted to get rid of and all that. And one of these people that commented ended up starting to go there, and they met these people like the residents of Cape Elizabeth. And he noticed that while a lot of them, in fact, a majority of them were normal, there were a select few, a percentage of the population that he'd see there that fit the criteria for what you would describe as paranoid. He said that he met some older ladies there and some middle-aged people that were purchasing and installing infrared cameras in and around their homes. Note that this is before the intrusions. So he obviously asked, "Why are you buying an infrared camera surveillance system?" And, the lady responded, in a broad sense by saying, "Who knows what could happen? Like, I just want to be careful. You never know what type of people are out there and this and that." Excuses for purchasing and installing and doing all this stuff with an infrared surveillance set. Can you imagine that? Infrared surveillance. That's like two steps above even just a normal camera sensor surveillance system. And as odd as this sounds, think about how this could potentially tie in with something like the sleep intruder. What you have to consider is that, sleep paralysis exists, and you also have to notice that the demographic of Cape Elizabeth also houses a small minority of people who can be described as paranoid, as explained. And this does align with, basic psychological fact that in areas with very, very low crime rate, for example, Cape Elizabeth, you will find segments of the population that their reaction or their paranoia and their anxiety towards potentially getting robbed and stuff like that is much, much higher than the norm. Even, these people that were buying these infrared cameras and preparing and all that, when asked as to why they were buying and all this, as I explained before, they just said for protection. When they were questioned as to whether they've seen any strange people walking about, whether they've been assaulted, whether they've been robbed, whether there had been anything of that nature, they scoffed. They literally said, "No, like we've never had stuff like that happen to us, yet we're still going to purchase and install this like military grade infrared surveillance system." So imagine this. One person gets sleep paralysis and they end up seeing a person in their room. It's vague, you can't really see him. You don't have a good description of him because he doesn't exist. He exists in a state of unconsciousness, and you didn't actually see him. You were unconscious, but you thought you saw him because you were having sleep paralysis. They report this to the police, and obviously they don't find any evidence because he's not real, right? But despite the lack of evidence and despite the lack of anything regarding this case, people start to go crazy. That this small segment of the population that is paranoid, they start to get paranoid. Now, I'm sure everyone who is potentially going to watch this video, hopefully it's a lot, but I'm sure that everyone has had those moments in time where there's a dark room and your closet or bathroom door is open, and in the darkness, the unknown, you can pick out a figure. Obviously, there's no figure there. Obviously, nothing is in there, but your mind likes to imagine things. It likes to fill in the gaps. Now take a group of potentially very paranoid people, very gullible, very likely to conform to this idea. Imagine they hear this and then they go to bed and they wake up during the middle of the night, or they need to go pee, and in their doorway or something, it's dark. They imagine they see something. They go and they turn on the light as explained in the intro of this video, and there's no one there. They look around, no one's there. He vanished without a trace. While it is very well possible that this man could have existed and totally just dipped out of there without leaving a trace, without no evidence left behind, whether it be even the sound of footsteps. While it is described as, someone heard footsteps, I'm not saying this is correct, but it's definitely a feasible option or theory in this case, where that's simply the handful of people who reported seeing this man were simply just scared, and they were just buying into the consensus of this group that there is a person entering their homes and watching them sleep. Going off of this, I do want to bring something up. So I don't want to discredit any type of, you know, thoughts brought up around this man. I don't want to say he didn't exist. I just want to go off of the two possibilities, and hopefully you guys can make a decision for yourselves as to what you believe. Personally, my thoughts are I simply don't know. But the fact of not knowing is the realization that either of these two theories, whether they're true or not, are still absolutely fascinating. On one hand, you have a 15-year-old boy, or even if that wasn't the guy, you still have a person breaking into people's houses, watching them sleep, and then sneaking out of there like a ninja. Absolutely no physical evidence left behind, nothing. And he never gets caught, and he just decides to do it. Like, think about what is going on through that person's brain. He's smart enough, he's intelligent enough, he's slick enough to completely avoid all police investigations and just continue breaking into people's houses and watching them as they sleep as he so pleases. On the other hand, you have a story of mass hysteria within a small town in Maine that spiraled out of control and led to this current story as we know it now, that being of the sleepwatcher of Cape Elizabeth. So before I go, I just wanted to thank everyone who watched this video for watching the video. Hopefully if you guys are still here, just know that in the future I'll probably make some more videos. I enjoy doing this, but thank you, and hope you guys all have a great day or night.